This lick may sound quite complicated, but it's actually a lot simpler than you think. In this video, I'll show you 10 easy bebop licks that you can play in 2-5-1 progressions, and once you realize how they're built, you're going to realize they're a lot simpler than you think. Let's get into it. The 2-5-1 chord progression is the first chord progression that you need to master when you're playing a lot of genres, but especially jazz. A lot of songs are completely made up of sequences of 2-5-1 chord progressions in different keys. So when you're getting started soloing or when you want to get started playing bebop, 2-5-1s are a great place to start. These 10 phrases are straight out of bebop language, and each one is going to be building off of the last one. So once you see how they're built, not only will you have 10 phrases that you can use on any song in any key, but you'll also see how you could use a similar approach to start making your own bebop phrases from things that you learned from recordings or other exercises that you see elsewhere. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. So let's take a look at this first phrase. It starts on a C on a D minor 7 chord, and then we're going to be going down by step all the way through the C major scale. And it just so happens to be that on the D minor 7, we're starting on the 7th of the D minor 7 chord, and we're going down by step like this. And what's happening is that on each of the chords, we're ending up landing on the 7th. So we're landing on the 7th of the D minor 7th, we're landing on the 7th of the G7, and we're landing on the 7th of the C major 7. As we go through these 10 licks, you're going to realize that a really important part about bebop, the bebop style, is that we always are trying to land on consonant notes of a new chord. For all of the examples for this one, we're always trying to target the 7th of the chord. And so no matter what we do, when we get to that new chord, we're trying to get to the 7th. And that's going to guide everything that we do for these 10 licks that we're going to do. So for this one, we're going 7, 6, 5, 4. And then again, once we get to the G7, it's 7, 6, 5, 4. And then we finally land on the 7th of the C major 7th. And this is a really typical textbook example of a bebop phrase that will work on a quick 2-5-1 in C major. So we're going, right? Go ahead and try that on your own. And then after you do that, see if you can do it in a different key. So I can even do this in the key of D major. So I can go, right? So if I just follow the D major scale down from, technically it's the root of the key, I'm going from the 7th of the 2 chord, which is actually the root of the key. We're in D major, and I'm starting on D. And if I'm doing a quick 2-5-1, meaning that it's 2 beats per chord, it works out perfectly to get me to the 7th of each chord as I go down. And this is really helpful because we can build phrases off of this skeleton that we have. So if we're doing a quick 2-5-1, this is a really characteristic phrase. Right, that's in D major. Let's get back to our C major. But a lot of times in jazz, our 2-5-1s are long 2-5-1s. And so when we have this kind of textbook example of a quick 2-5-1, we can take a quick 2-5-1 phrase built with eighth notes, and we can stretch it out and create more variations with it. So let's go ahead to 1B here, where now we're taking the same phrase, but instead of doing it in eighth notes with a short 2-5-1, we're going to do it in quarter notes with a long 2-5-1. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? Going from the 2 chord to the 5 chord to the 1 chord, but just doing 4 notes per bar, right? And what you're going to see as we go through this video is we're going to be taking a simple phrase like this, and we're going to come up with a lot of different variations, including the one that I played at the beginning of the video, which sounds like this. right? And all of that comes from understanding how we can fill in little parts and create little embellishments on the top of this skeleton of our basic 2-5-1. So let's go ahead and go on to our number 2, which is we're going to do a scale in thirds going up. What that means is that we're starting on the 7th of our 2 chord, and we're going to go up a step, and then we're going down like this. Right? And this is a great exercise to practice in any key. Of course, we practice scales up and down, but you should also be practicing, especially for jazz and for bebop, you should be practicing scales in thirds like this. And you can do it 2 ways. And that's our number 2 is our first way. We're going to go up. And then our second way is that we're going to go down. So on the way on the one that's going up, meaning that we're going up for the second note, the fingering that I'm doing for this is 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1, right? And then I'm going to flip it for the second one. So I'm going to go like this: 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3, right? And so once again, number 2 is going up like this. Right? And this is a great bebop phrase. And then our second one is this, number 3. So these are 2 really simple bebop phrases that you can use on a 2-5-1 that just use a scale in thirds. The first one going up and the second one going down. And something that I want you to pay attention to is that all of the notes on all of the downbeats were the same as they were on 1, or specifically 1B, right? So we're having other notes in between, but we're focusing on our anchor notes, and that's something that I use in my own teaching, talking about kind of the little landmarks in your lines that tell you where you are and give you basically a checkpoint to go from one place to another. And in this one, we're just going up by step, and each or the and of 1, 2, 3, and 4 is just going up a step from our anchor note. And then on number 3, we're going a step below our destination. So you can see that each one is going into the next beat. So if you're enjoying this video so far, and especially if you're enjoying this approach to learning jazz language, I have a course called From Lines to Melodies, where we start from the ground up and I give you exercises so that you can learn how to come up with your own lines rather than just regurgitating lines that you learned off of a random YouTube video. So if you like the idea of composing and improvising your own melodies from scratch, definitely check out the link in the description. That'll do a lot to support the channel. So let's go ahead and go to number 4. And we're going to be taking this up a notch by doing some triplet lines. This is where things are going to start to feel a little bit more difficult, but if you just bear with me, you're going to realize that these aren't as difficult as you might think. So let me play this lick for you. And a little exercise that I want you to do is I want you to just get a table or a desk or something like that, and I just want you to go 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1. So just like this until you're really comfortable just doing this. It's a great rhythm exercise anyway, so just get to the point where you can easily do that on your palm. We're just going 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 3 2 1. And that's going to be the magic of these lines, is that even though we're kind of all over the place in terms of the triplets, and they're going pretty quickly, we're going to be doing the same fingering throughout the entire line. So once again, I'm going to play this and watch how the fingering is just 1 3 2 1 3 2 1 repeated. Right? Let me play it with the chords. Right? And so that's a great bebop phrase that you can practice in a lot of different keys to get really comfortable with this type of triplet line. Ideally, as we're going into some different keys, there may be some opportunities where you can change the fingering and have it be a little bit more comfortable, but this fingering works great for most keys. Okay, and going on to number 5, we're going to do this other one where instead of going 1 3 2 1 3 2 1, we're going to be going 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So once again, if you just tap it along on a desk or something like that, or on a table, or just on the fall board of your piano, just go 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and that's going to be the fingering for this phrase in number 5. So once again, it seems really complicated, but all we're doing is we're going 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then we're going down the scale. And there is, for this one, there's just one modification, and we're going down by a third and then chromatically up. So I'm going 7th, this is the 5th, and then sharp 5th, and then I'm to my next anchor note on the B. Right, so I'm going down a third and then chromatically reaching to my next note. And you'll notice that here the line is a little bit different, and that's because I have my F as the note that I'm going to, and I could have gone to the E flat, which would have been fine, but I decided to make it a little bit easier on our hands and go down to the D. And then same thing going down. I came all the way down to the A. And so this one was a little bit different, and then it's chromatic on the last one. So once again, so one thing to note in number 5 is that we've started to introduce a little bit more chromaticism into this line. Now, what is chromaticism? It's basically when we use notes that are not in the scale or not in the key. And for this one, we're using notes that are passing tones. So just on the way from getting from A to B, I'm doing a chromatic passing tone from the A to the B using A sharp. And this is really important in the bebop style. It's one of the main characteristics of bebop is that as we are trying to land on consonant notes or chord tones on the downbeats, we often end up using a lot of chromatic notes. And a lot of bebop is finding these little formulas that get us from one chord tone to the next that help us make our lines smooth so that we can play at fast tempos, which is a lot of what bebop is playing at fast tempos and being able to land on chord tones reliably without having to think about the individual phrases that much. So when we go to number 6, you'll see that now we're taking the chromatic notes that we had in number 5, and rather than having them as passing notes from the A to the A sharp, we're just doing a half step lower neighbor to the next note that we are aiming for. And I did a little bit different things throughout, but let me play this one for you real quick. Right, so we're doing a few different things here. The first one is that we're adding these chromatic lower neighbors, meaning we're approaching the note that we're trying to get to by a half step below. It's kind of like you're driving along to a destination, but you just go a little bit too far and then you have to back up a little bit. And we do this a lot in bebop, where we just go one half step too far and then we come back to the note that is our destination. And so 6 is a great example of that, where we're going, we have this A sharp that's just a half step below B, G sharp is a half step below A, we have G flat that's a half step above the F, the D sharp that's a half step below the E, we have the C sharp that's a half step below the D. Now we do have a few other things that are going on this one. So this is actually our first example of an anticipation. And basically what that means is that we're getting to our destination a little bit early, right? So this often happens on the and of 4 right before a downbeat. And that's what's happening here. So we're actually getting to our destination a little bit early. And so that's just feel how that feels to get there a little bit early. right? Really characteristic of bebop, really characteristic of this jazz style. So going on to number 7, this is where things really start to heat up. Before we were doing triplets. Now we're going to come up with some phrases with our same anchors going all the way down that are using 16th notes. And this is a really simple one that you should practice in any key. And this is basically the pattern, is that we're going to go up from our first note and then back down. And then we're going to go one note below our next destination note, which happens to be a third down. And then we land on our destination note. So we have... And once again, you'll notice that the fingering is the same throughout. So again, if we do our practice on the desk, the fingering is 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, just like this. Right? And so I would practice that on its own just to get comfortable with the fingering. Because if you can do the fingering, then you can do this phrase. Right? It almost plays itself as it goes down. It's the same phrase, just 8 different times on a note, just one note lower, right? And so practice that in a few different keys. Again, there might be some places where you can come up with a better fingering that can deal with some of the different flats and sharps that you have in the keys. But really, I just use that same fingering in the key of E flat. And it works just fine. So practice that in several different keys, and practice these descending major scales, and that will definitely be a different way of practicing your scales than you have done in the past. The rest of these phrases, 8, 9, and 10, are all different ways that we can combine these phrases to make them more musical. Usually, we won't be just doing 16th notes all the time. Usually, if you have a long phrase, you want some rhythmic variety. And that's what 8 does for us. This is still a very clear pattern. Basically, what we're doing is we're using the phrase from 7. And then we're going to anticipate the next note that's going to be on beat 3. And then we're just following that down. So this is a 2-beat pattern that we're just going to follow all the way down. And for this one, I'm using the same fingerings that I used in 7. And then, literally, I am just shifting my hand down using the same fingering for the B and the A. So I'm going 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, and then again 2. And that forces me to have a little bit of a break in the line, meaning there's a little bit of separation, and that actually sounds quite good for this line. It sounds a little bit similar to how a saxophonist might stop a note with their tongue and then start the next note by releasing their tongue. Once again. Very characteristic articulation as we're playing through that. So let's continue on to number 9, and this is where things start to get a little bit more fancy, where we're starting to combine both using those chromatic lower neighbors or doing some of those chromatic notes, and then we're also combining having those anticipations. So, right, but once again, all of our anchor notes are still maintained. We have So finally, we've arrived at number 10, and once again, we are just combining all of the ideas that we have come up with throughout 1 through 10. So we finally arrived at number 10, and once again, basically what we're doing now is we're combining ideas from the previous lines, and we're putting them together and synthesizing them into one really exciting, dynamic bebop phrase. So here's what that sounds like. We have a few different things that are happening here. One is that we are using something that's called an escape note, where basically we're kind of jumping outside of the line and then coming back in, or we're jumping outside of of the clear contour of the line, and then we're coming back. And so notice that here I'm using a chord tone to do that, which is F. You don't have to use a chord tone, but it just happened to sound really nice for this one, to use a chord tone, and then I come back to the line. And then I'm following a lot of the same structure that I have before. I'm using a chromatic tone there, and then I'm using an anticipation here. I'm getting to the G7 a little bit earlier, just like we were working on in number 8. We're using a chromatic lower neighbor here. And then here's the only place where I really depart from the line that much. And that's just that for this one, I felt like I wanted to go up instead of continually going down. For all of these phrases that we've done so far, we're constantly going down, down, down. Right? But there is a way where we can jump up, and we can do this in a lot of different places. Right? We can jump up the octave to finish our line, and that's what I do here, where we land on the D, and then I want to get to the C and the B up an octave, so I just use this note in the middle to bridge the gap between the two, and it just so happens to be, once again, a chord tone, which is the root right there. So once again, let me play this for you. So I hope that you enjoyed these 10 bebop phrases to get you started playing in a bebop and jazz style. If you do want to go deeper, again, I have a course called From Lines to Melodies that you can check out in the link in the description, which will give you this method for learning phrases, for coming up with your own phrases from the ground up, so that you can be able to own your own language and be able to come up with your own language from the ground up, rather than only having the licks that you happen to transcribe from solo. So if not, no problem, but make sure to tell me in the comments which of the 10 phrases you liked the most, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.